Hey, welcome back to the Social Justice Forums. We're glad to have you sharing with us. Recently on the Social Justice Forums, we had the opportunity to interview a very special guest, SUNY Potsdam Officer in Charge, Dr. John L. Graham, who recently received the post of Officer in Charge, which is the equivalent of being the president of SUNY Potsdam. He took over for this semester, started out very well, and unfortunately died during the Thanksgiving holiday. Not only was Dr. Graham an educator, he was a well-known basketball player, a community activist, and somebody that had young people at the heart and mind. But not only that, a very close brother and a personal friend. As somebody who grew up in Harlem, we spent a lot of time playing together, playing basketball together, at the same time trying to get education down. And he was an inspiration to everybody. Really learning how to play basketball, that's one part of it. And playing basketball with him and winning basketball tournaments, that was one thing. But the one thing that stuck out about Dr. John L. Graham, or Leon as we knew him, was that he always had a propensity for education. After playing, what would he do? He would actually go into City College and sit in the lounge and be able to study and apply for his doctoral program. Or he'd prepare for a trip going to Africa, working with the United Nations in the Department of Agriculture. He was always a proponent for education. And then he got a chance to be a president, officer in charge at SUNY Potsdam. Well, as I said, he died recently, and the students at SUNY Potsdam are in mourning. I, as personal friend, am definitely in mourning along with a lot of other people. But I want to take a look back at that interview that we spent just a little while ago with Dr. John L. Graham, as he talked about his career, his motivation, and his passion for education and the young people in the State University of New York.
Hey, Daren, thank you so much. I'm so humbled to even be talking to you. You and I go back, oh God, many years. We go back from the beginning. So I'm just so fortunate to see you excelling so exceptionally well in your career. And I'm delighted to be with you today.
Well, I'm delighted to be with you too, brother. And I mean, it's a wonderful journey. We can talk about that a little bit later on. But here you are as the officer in charge, which for some people who may not know, that's almost like the president of SUNY Potsdam. But talk to us about your responsibilities at SUNY Potsdam.
So Daren, thank you so much. So what happened is that probably back in June, the president who was here, the former president who was here, notified the chancellor that she was going to be moving on and accepting another opportunity. So the chancellor then reached out to me with the board approval to see if I might be interested in taking over this role as officer in charge. And to your point, the responsibilities of the officer in charge is to execute the full duties of the college president. So essentially, I'm in the president's office. I'm making all the executive decisions, of course, collaboratively, but that's the strength of the title. So the title seems to be a little bit off-putting in the sense that some people would sort of align it with military, but officer in charge essentially means I have the full authority by the Board of Trustees to make the executive decisions and take the appropriate executive actions as appropriate and needed for the campus.
So you come in at a very unique time, because here we are in 2021, navigating this pandemic. Students are getting back into in-person learning after having to deal with the virtual environment. Give us a sense of what's going on at SUNY Potsdam now, given the fact that you guys are back to in-person learning.
Thank you. So here's the thing, and I'm so happy you asked me that question. So what happened, obviously, during the pandemic, we learned a whole lot in March 2019. And of course, many of our students, if not all, basically all of our students went into this sort of virtual modality. And our faculty really did a great job of also making that transition. But I got to admit, it was painful on all sides. The faculty members would prefer the in-person instruction delivery, and the students would prefer the in-person experience for learning. So we had to deal with that dichotomy. But thankfully, we all sort of got through that process. And now most of our students, believe it or not, as much as they use iPads and iPhones and all these fancy gadgets that they like and we all love, many of our students, especially in the SUNY system, really are high-touch students, and they really would like to engage with their faculty members in person. But what we're trying to do now is to shore up the in-person instruction, but also leave a lot of space and room for hybrid instruction. And some students actually would like to remain in a remote instructional modality. So we're trying to do all those three things at one time. But definitely our footprint right now at SUNY Potsdam and many of our SUNY campuses is really to have our students back on campus, back in person, because again, our students, this is what they expect from us.
Yeah. What can you tell us about, you've worked for SUNY schools for a long time, State University of New York, for those people who may not be so familiar. And there is this special aura, if you will, about SUNY students, the demographics of where they come from. For many of them in New York State, the opportunity to stay home in New York State and be able to actually get their college education there. And it's a win-win situation on a part of a lot of our students. Talk to us a little bit about the SUNY student and what you gained in your knowledge of them.
Well, that's really good. So here's the thing. Statistically, 97% of our students are actually from New York State. That's a very high number, right? So we have a tremendous footprint. And Daren, a lot of people don't realize this, but there's a SUNY campus every 30 miles in the state of New York.
Wow.
And also SUNY owns, and I found this data point to be quite shocking, at least 45% of the state buildings. 45%, that's a huge footprint. So we go from all the way from Western New York, all the way down to downstate New York, which is in Long Island. So we have a SUNY campus every 30 miles. A lot of people may not know this data point as well, is that we comprise 64 college campuses. And out of the 64, 30 are community colleges. And 34 are four-year campuses. And then among them, we have technology colleges, we have comprehensive colleges, and SUNY Potsdam is a comprehensive college. And then, of course, we have research institutions as well, which are known as university centers. So we have a dynamic mix. Now, what I will tell you to the second part of your question, which is mission critical, is that many of our students really don't necessarily want to be in New York City. I'm a Harlem guy, and I wanted to be out of New York City for my college education. I wanted to have some sort of open air, some trees, some squirrels. I was looking for something different. So many of our students that I talk to on our campus, I'm in the northern country of New York. We're about 25 miles from the Canadian border. We have a lot of students, believe it or not, from the Bronx. Lots of students. I met a young lady the other day from Cardinal Spellman, and she's on the women's basketball team here. So we got students from the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island, and we have some really dynamic programs here, like the Crane School of Music. So a lot of our students city, without necessarily being out of the state. So the state is big enough. So our students come here, they get a great experience, and many of them stay, or they may retreat back to the city or the borough where they come from.
So here you are as the president of SUNY Potsdam, officer in charge, if you will, and you have responsibilities and obviously also a vision, and you have to really navigate the helm. So talk to us a little bit about your vision for SUNY Potsdam. What are you trying to see occur this year in the area of your students as well as for your teachers?
So thank you. So here's the thing. I just gave sort of a welcoming address to the campus community on September 8th. And if you don't mind, I'll share that with you and Latricia. But here's the thing. I really came in with a great deal of respect for what's happening here nationally. A lot of people don't realize that we have about 19 plus million students in college. We have about 5,300 colleges and universities in this country, about 2,000 community colleges. But the market share for our campus is about 3,000 students. So number one, we want to increase our market share in the space of getting more students. So to do that, we created a 4-point enrollment strategy. So the first point of our enrollment strategy is the North Country. We try to shore up our enrollment, particularly with the students that are in our geographical location. That's number one. Number two, we want to sort of expand our footprint in New York City, those 5 boroughs, of course. And we want to try to get as many students as we can to be attracted to our campus, because the campus really is a postcard. That's the second part of our strategy. The third part of our enrollment strategy is really to attract international students to join our campus. And Daren, I might want to underscore this. When we talk about international students, we're also including students who are already here. That might be Dreamers, that might be DACA. We might, that's a part of our dynamic mix for international students. And then the fourth part of our strategy, Daren, is to really what we call bring back the Bears. Potsdam's logo is the Bears, right? Mm-hmm. The Potsdam Bears. So we want to bring back students who already have, 90 credits, 115 credits, 75 credits that did not complete. So we want to do a degree completion platform that will give us a sense of building our enrollment. So that's the first part of the vision. The second thing we want to do is really restore confidence in the campus because, again, as I mentioned, we have comprehensive colleges. We have 13 comprehensive colleges. Our campus has the lowest enrollment among the 13. We were always relatively small, but again, we want to get back to our market share. As I said, we have about 3,000 students. We would be more comfortable in a space of about 4,500 students. So we got a lot of work to do over the next 3 to 5 years. So building enrollment is a key. Restoring confidence in the campus that we're going to be a viable enterprise is also important. And then the third thing, Daren, which I have make no bones about saying, is that we need to set the campus up for permanent leadership. And that's important. Now, that doesn't disinclude me, but that's the direction I want to go. Increase enrollment, restore confidence. And the third thing is set the campus up on good financial footing to welcome a permanent leader.
Yeah. And so when we talk about SUNY schools, obviously you said 97% of those SUNY students are actually coming from right here in New York State. What is the biggest draw, if you will, for having that high percentage? Because we do know a lot of people can say, listen, you know what, I'll go somewhere else. Like you wanted to, you wanted schools. You ended up going to University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. But what was the driving force, do you think, to really make students say, I want to stay in state?
Daren, here's the thing. You know, and I know, New York City writ large has about 9 million people, right? And Brooklyn has what, 2.4, Long Island has about 3 million. And then any given day, it's about 11 million people working in New York City. A lot of the students that I talk to, especially here, especially from Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Staten Island, Long Island, they tell me pretty much the same thing. I want to be out of the city. I want to sort of explore my horizons. The city is dense. Many of them even say that their households are dense and they really just kind of want to get out and sort of spread their wings. And they kind of like want to learn in a more diverse setting. And believe it or not, you would think that there's a lot of diversity in New York City. But some students, depending on who they are and where they're from, they're actually looking for some exploratory type of diversity, different faculty, different peers. They come for athletics. They come for our Crane School of Music. They come for our academic offerings. And believe it or not, the students I talk to, they absolutely love not being in New York City, but they love to retreat back to New York City. So this is really about getting a part of the market share of students that says, you know what, I love the state of New York, don't want to leave the state, but I want to have a diverse experience. So they choose SUNY Potsdam as well as some of our other campuses.
I want to take a moment and share with our viewers that not only are you the officer in charge of SUNY Potsdam, you've had a long history in the career of education, but you've also had a long career as an athlete. Our brotherhood has actually shared a lot, basically, on the basketball court, as well as off the court as well. But I want to talk for a minute because you bring a unique perspective. I mentioned that you're a Division I athlete, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, did very well there, opportunity to do overseas, all of those great things. But you bring a unique perspective to the seat that you sit in right now because you also have a concept about athletics. And I want to talk about athletics and academics in this moment because that's also a draw for students because sometimes you can't make it to play at that big school the way that you do, but you do have the opportunity to come to a school where you can get good playing time and then also be in a good college atmosphere.
That is a wonderful and well-positioned question and comment because Daren, when you come to visit, you've got to take a look at our Maxey Hall. It is unbelievable. I have never been to a Division III campus that has an ice hockey arena, huge volleyball court, indoor track, Olympic-sized pool. The basketball court is phenomenal. The sports programs here are tremendous. We have soccer and we have women's ice hockey. So, I'm excited about that. But I want to just kind of go back a little bit about this whole thing about student athletes. One of the things, Daren, that students will always want to be associated with is a winning institution. Many years ago, a study was done at Duke University, and they were interviewing students randomly. It was a random survey. And they asked students, why did you choose Duke University? And these are non-student athletes. You know what the response was? I wanted to be associated with a winning institution. So one of the things I have said here at Potsdam since I've been here is that we want our student athletes to, one, win in the classroom. That's first, right? We want them to win in the community. And then we want them to win on the field, on the ice, on the track, in the gym, wherever they're competing. And we want our students to take the same thing, Daren, that you and I have always known endurance, concentration, stamina, all these things are so important. And those are transferable skills. So everything that I learned at A. Philip Randolph High School in terms of going to practice, lifting weights, staying with the team, being a unified group, those are exactly the same skills that I'm using right now, many, many decades later in my career. So I'm a big fan of student athletes. I'm a big fan of students who are pure academics, but I certainly know that there's something magical, Daren, about higher education leadership. And I think higher education leadership, Daren, is really like a baseball team and not necessarily a basketball team. You know this, in a basketball team, one athlete can have a great day and say, hey guys, you four don't even worry about it. I'll take the game over. Well, in baseball, you can't do that. The pitcher has to trust the outfield. And so if I'm pitching here at Potsdam as the officer in charge or as the leader, I got to trust my outfield. So that's what I think, that's what I'm bringing to bear at this institution, is letting folks know that we are indeed a team. And as you know, Daren, and we all know, teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah. I want to share with people that, our brotherhood goes a long way. I mean, I can tell a story like we used to play basketball. And when we played basketball, we would be finished playing basketball. But you would be the dude who says, yo, I got to go over here to City College, study. You were writing dissertations, you were getting your stuff in, and you said, listen, I'm going to get this master's, I'm going to get this doctorate. I'm going to do what I need to do in order to excel in the field of education. I know a lot of us, we were still basketball heavy, but you had the balance between both basketball and academics. And when I look at you now, I see a person that's now the officer in charge, for those people that, or the equivalent of the president at SUNY Potsdam University, but more importantly, an African-American brother who I get to see in the presidency. How do we get to the place where we can close that gap, where we can see more Dr. John Leon Grahams, where we can see more in the presidency, because that's not something that we always see.
Well, Daren, listen, I will tell you. So if we go all the way back, Daren, when you and I grew up, when we played basketball, one of the things that you and I did and all our friends did, and we didn't even know it was going to pay dividends down the line, is that when we played in 135th and Lenox Avenue, right? We played there, and then all of a sudden somebody said, hey, there's a game at 145th and Lenox. We played there. So we always said yes. When we were growing up playing basketball, it was Marble Hill, it was everywhere. We played everywhere. King Towers, we played in just about every single tournament. So one of the things I always did when I was young is I said yes to everything, and then I tried to figure out, I said yes, so how am I gonna make yes work? So one of the things I did, Daren, as I got older, I started sort of positioning myself to say, you know what? Keep putting yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable. When you and I grew up, our generation, the motto was, if the shoe fits, wear it. Now it's, if the shoe fits, you're not allowing room for growth. So I'm always looking to push myself. But I got to tell you something, Daren, and I'm going to be very honest with you, as I always have been. I have put out 125 applications over my career, 125, and 118 times somebody said no to me. And then on 7 occasions, I was able to get some interest. And then on 1 occasion, I got this opportunity. So being able to deal with no, not now, and maybe, I have dealt with that. I am still a very much young man in spirit. And I look at this screen and I see my image with the gray beard. And I say to myself, wow, man, you come a long way. So Daren, I would say to your question is that I was able to deal with no a lot, not now, a lot, and maybe a lot. And so I think that the new generation is needed of problem solvers to get into this space of higher education. But one of the things, Daren, I'm not going to do is that I'm not going to take the manual with me. I'm building around me, and I'm sharing with young brothers and sisters to say, this is how you begin to build your portfolio. And even when I write letters of recommendations for individuals, they read the letter and go, oh my God, this is not me. And I say, yeah, it's not you now, but this is the person that I see in the years to come.
Yeah. And so for young people, obviously, that's your passion, to really see them go across the finish line. You understand also the burdens and challenges. I mean, we grew up in Harlem. We knew exactly what it was to be, growing up Harlem, and yet still being able to achieve and get to a level where we are today. What advice do you give for young people who are really trying to find that academic balance and trying to get across the finish line amidst all of the life struggles? Because let's be honest, some of the people that we see in our SUNY schools, their income may not be as high. They're coming from backgrounds that have challenges and struggles, but yet and still in their heart of hearts, they want to be able to excel educationally.
So here's the thing. Darren, no matter where I've been to multiple countries around the world. I've lived outside of the United States in 3 different countries. One of the things that I have always done, I have never changed my psychological zip code. My zip code is 10027. I'm straight up from Harlem, 2 blocks from the Apollo Theater. And those street smarts that I've learned navigating through the neighborhoods, those are the same things that I use to bear in my profession. I did spend a lot of time in the library. I became sort of a library guy and spent 8 hours a day in the library, but I use that endurance and stamina from athletics. So what I would say, Darren, it's a mix of taking the fervor from the Bronx, from Brooklyn and Queens, and your survival skills of navigating that neighborhood, and then developing stamina and endurance and thinking about what it is that you want to do next. But Darren, I want to just share this very, very briefly. So the world's population is 7.4 billion people, maybe 7.5 billion. If we were to take a photograph of the entire world's population, what would most of us spend our time doing? We would be looking for ourselves in the picture. So that is exactly what it is that I was doing my entire life, is trying to find myself in the world's picture. And as the campus leader here at Potsdam, I'm giving every student a virtual mirror that when you come here, you find yourself in the world's picture.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to give you the opportunity to really just share your heart. I know there are a lot of people out there watching, and their parents and their students who are watching, and those who really are thinking about this thing called education. What would you say to parents, students, and educators on behalf of where you sit right now at SUNY Potsdam?
So I would say this: if you want your son or daughter to go far, then they really have to physically go far. When I left A. Philip Randolph High School and graduated, I had a full scholarship to Eastern New Mexico University. I chose an institution that was so far away from New York City that I could focus. And then I was very fortunate my sophomore, junior, and senior year to have a full basketball scholarship to Maryland Eastern Shore. So to me, let not distance be the reason why you limit yourself. If you really want to go far in this world, you literally, sometimes and figuratively, have to go far, because success is not always at your door. It's not at your neighbor's house. It's not 10 blocks away from where you live. Success might be very, very far away from where you grew up. Right now, Darren, I'm about 7 hours out of New York City, and I'm extremely comfortable here because I've sort of resided myself that I'm a Harlem guy. Drop me off anywhere. Mom, dad, caregivers, grandparents, loved ones, relatives, faculty, staff, students, whoever you are out there, if you want to go far, then go far.
Far as 25 miles from the Canadian border, Dr. John Graham, our guest here on the Social Justice Forums. My brother, it's been great to have you, man, and you got to come back and share with us again.
Yes, sir. I love you, man, and thank you so much for the opportunity. So appreciate you.
All right, Dr. John Graham, our guest here on the Social Justice Forums. Stay with us. We got more show coming up. We're coming up in a few.